Hey, Daily Dosers. My name's Gina Sur, and I am the children's pastor for kindergarten through fifth grades on the Vista campus. And a couple months ago, my son, who attends community college, shared with me that students had been given the opportunity to drop classes due to the effects of coronavirus and the inability to meet in person for classes. And they could drop classes without having it reflect poorly on their transcripts. And I asked him, well, who would do that 3/4 of the way into the semester? And he looked at me and he said, your son? Okay, then. So sometimes questions can lead us to kind of awkward and difficult places, but a really good question leads to open dialogue and healthy communication. And asking questions, I found, is a great way to show interest and concern and care for other people. And when we take the time to listen and really hear answers, it gives us insight and understanding and maybe even compassion. And isn't that what we're called to show as members of the church? So, given that questions are really powerful, it shouldn't be any surprise that Jesus used them a lot. I did a really quick Google search, and here's what I found. In the New Testament books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Jesus asked 303 questions. He was asked 183, and he directly answered only 3. What he usually did was he would answer a question with another question, because questions open dialogue. And I especially love how he did that with people who were at the time considered different or outcasts. Like in John chapter 4, Jesus meets a woman at the well, and she's a Samaritan. So there were a lot of reasons, culturally speaking, why it would be unacceptable for him to be talking with her. But in verse 7, he asks her, will you give me a drink? And then in the next chapter, John 5, there is a man who's been disabled for 38 years. He's sitting near this pool of water that's known to have healing properties. So it should be pretty obvious why he's sitting there. But in verse 6, Jesus asks him, do you want to get well? And then in Acts chapter 9, Jesus asks Saul in verse 4. Saul is the most zealous persecutor of Christians at the time. And he says, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? So do you notice in each instance, Jesus doesn't condemn, he doesn't criticize, he doesn't accuse, he doesn't belittle. Instead, he asks questions, and that enables people to respond and tell their story and to be treated with dignity and to be seen as they were created in the image of God, as someone deeply loved and truly valued. So we can follow Jesus' example, especially when we're dealing with people who we feel are different, either because of the color of the skin or language or culture or social or financial status or even political beliefs. When we ask questions and really listen for the response, instead of promoting our agenda and making ourselves heard, when we seek to understand with really good questions, we open up the door to building relationships. And we know that relationships are the bridge over which truth travels. And we earn the opportunity to speak the truth and hope of who Jesus is into their lives. So let's ask more questions and make less statements so that we can start to see people through the eyes of Jesus and through the heart of Jesus. Who can you invite into dialogue with a really thoughtful and engaging question? And in doing so, show that you are there to love and care for them and have concern for them as a member of the church and of the body of Christ. Have a great day.